Hello, viewers. This is Dr. Qamar Cheema, and I'm honored and thrilled to have with me Professor Dr. Ishtaq Ahmed, who is a scholar, author, and you people have watched him at this space. Thank you very much, Dr. Ishtaq Ahmed, for your time for my YouTube channel, The New World.
My pleasure. I'm privileged to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Sir, since you have written a lot about Pakistan, you have extensively written books about Pakistan's history and how things have moved here. Uh, why when people are looking this socio-economic situation in the country, this political divide, so after 75 years, this is a very important year in Pakistan. So what do you think, what happened to the idea of Pakistan? Because majority of the people in Pakistan believe that this was not the idea of Pakistan, that people will be tearing apart each other, this people will not trust each other, the institutions will trying to bring each other down. There is a judicial coup yesterday. So how do you see that, what is basically what was an idea of Pakistan? Because right now the socio-political and the economic situation of the country is definitely, many believe, is not an idea of Pakistan.
Thank you. I think this is the key question. And if we can analyze it, discuss it today, it will be a major source of uh, understanding the complexities which attend the travails of the Pakistani state. And one can say like this, that in a broad sense, we can go deep into history and say that there is an idea of Pakistan already at the time of Shah Waliullah, and then you can continue and identify Sir Sayyid, and then from Lahore there was uh, what was his name? Muharram Ali Chishti, 1880, wrote about it. Then there were the Kheri brothers who came to Stockholm in 1917 to attend the first conference of the first international, the socialists. So you find traces of the idea of a Muslim state again being revived in the Indian subcontinent after the Mughal Empire declined as a great empire, and that decline, that deterioration was irreversible. So it's the one can go as deep as that in search of the idea of Pakistan. But one can also look at it in uh, the politics of the 20th century. From the politics of the 20th century, when the British were ruling the subcontinent, the differences between the Muslims and Hindus were given constitutional recognition through the India Act of 1909, which conceded separate electorates and weightage to the Muslims, thereby separating the Muslims from the rest of the people of India, constitutionally speaking. And I think that's important because once constitutionally your interests are separated from the rest of the people, you develop a particular way of looking at how to promote your interest, how to defend your interests, and so on. And then one can say that these ideas were floating, were talked about, were discussed. There are so many books about the need for Muslims to assert themselves and so on and so forth until we come to the 1930s. Then we have this very authoritative lecture of Alama Dr. Sir Muhammad Iqbal at Allahabad, where he talks about the destiny of the Muslims of Northwestern India. Although, when he was confronted by the British, that what was he talking about? Was he talking about pan Islamism? He withdrew and said, no, 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 no. It's just an idea that there should be a frontline Muslim state within the British Empire to defend it from external aggression. So, followed by then in 1933 by Chaudhry Rahmat Ali. who coined the word Pakistan, Pakistan. P for Punjab, A for Afghania. Afghania means Northwest Frontier, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and so on. K for Kashmir, and Istan for Sindh and Balochistan. Okay? And then Chaudhry Rahmat Ali wanted that there should be complete population exchange between Hindu India and Muslim Pakistan. That sort of idea. Up until then, Qaeda Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah was not convinced about this. But once he assumed the leadership of the Muslim League and set forth the demand for Pakistan on the 23rd of March 1940, and for 2 days this was debated and the resolution was passed. One thing more, on the 22nd of March, one day earlier, his marathon speech is about why there should be Pakistan. The argument is Hindus and Muslims have two different worldviews. Their heroes are the heroes of the Hindus are the villains of the Muslims, and vice versa. That Muslims and Hindus do not dine together, they do not marry. All those differences which existed in society were politicized. And now the problem is, I think this is what people have to grasp. This is an argument vis-a-vis the Indian National Congress, which was claiming that it represented all Indians, irrespective of their religion, because the Congress party was not a communal party, it was open to all. Okay? So you oppose it by saying, no, Muslims are a separate nation. They are not simply a big or a large minority. They are a nation by virtue of being Muslims. They have their own worldview, their own culture, their own religion, their own laws, their own ideals, which do not conform to those of the Indian National Congress. Okay? So that is the basic speech that you have to look at, justifying why there should be the partition of India to create Pakistan. In the northeastern, northwestern parts of India, initially the idea was Muslim states. Later on, it became one state, Pakistan. That history we don't have to go into. But your idea now, what was the idea of Pakistan? Having presented this idea, the problem was how to mobilize Muslims behind this idea. That's the main thing. So then, if you look at the 1945-46 election campaign and Dr. Qamar Cheema, I would urge you to go through my book on the partition of the Punjab bloodied, partitioned, and cleansed. And then most of that I have again brought back in my book on Jinnah. Jinnah, his successes, failures, and role in history, where I quote the Punjab governors every fortnight writing reports from beginning September 1945 until the elections in February 1946, saying that the Muslim League is projecting Pakistan as an Islamic panacea, where the state of Medina ideal will be revived, where everything will be decided according to Quran and Sunnah and so on. That's one part of it. In the Northwest Frontier, I have given evidence that he came to an agreement with Pir Sahib Manki Sharif that the future constitution of Pakistan will be based on the Sharia. I mean, all that evidence is given, and I would like somebody to challenge it. But there were people like you and me who were Muslims, but educated people. To such Muslims, Jinnah Sahib said, no, 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 Pakistan is going to be a modern democratic state where Islamic principles will apply. So now the problem is, uh, before I leave it to you to ask the next question, Dr. Yaqub Bangash is a Pakistani historian currently at Harvard as a Fulbright, I think. He told me that he met Sahibzada Yaqub Ali Khan, who was Pakistan's foreign minister for a long time, who told him that about 8 months after Pakistan came into being, he was then the military aide to Governor General Muhammad Ali Jinnah, and Sayyid Ehsan, who was the naval aide of Jinnah Sahab. Both of them went and met Qaid Azam, who was in his pajamas and looked very tired. And they said, Sir, from India, every day we learn that they have made this progress in their constitution. This new idea has been presented, but we hear nothing about the constitution of Pakistan. And Jinnah then is reported to have said, and I've quoted him in the book, look, boys, I have been making different commitments to different parts of different, lobbies of Muslims. And so there is a conflict in what I have been saying. This I leave to the Constituent Assembly of Pakistan to work out then a constitution of Pakistan which will be based on the two nation theory. So that's the background. Now, if you pose the next question, we can go further.
No, that absolutely, you have given a complete historical understanding of about all that. So coming to the contemporary situation right now, where we are here in 2022. So let's talk about 2022, Dr. Sahib. In 2022, we find that whatever the political elite, the military, the judiciary, the society, wherever in whichever direction we are going, that does not coincide, or that is not in harmony what the forefathers of Pakistan envisioned. So why is Pakistan? Who is Pakistan? Who is making Pakistan weak now? That is a question. So historically, yes, we got an independent state. We have discussed it, but who is making Pakistan weak, and why people couldn't understand that? Okay, we got this land for okay, we want to be a separate homeland so that the Muslims can practice the religion with independence. But right now, where we have reached here, the poverty index, the human development index, our global relevance have decreased, the misadventures we have seen. So, who is making Pakistan weak right now, Dr. Sab, in 2022? That is a question. You have researched a lot. So, without all that historical reference you gave, please link that with the contemporary situation.
Okay, I think that's a very good question. But before we jump the 75 years and come to 2022, we have to explain what happened in these 75 years which have led to this. First of all, let me say that when the All India Muslim League and Qaid Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah and Allama Iqbal and Chaudhry Rahmat Ali and all others spoke about Pakistan, there was one big problem. If you look at Iqbal's speech or Chaudhry Rahmat Ali's speech or the final shape of Pakistan on the 14th 15th of August 1947, one third of the Muslims were left in India. So first of all, the idea that Muslims need a separate state with one third of Muslims left in India is in itself a very incomplete notion of Muslims having their own state. One third left in India. The more importantly, differences between Hindus on religion, on culture, on whatever civilization were fine if you wanted to emphasize them. Although there were many other things which also united us. But let's forget it. What was not recognized was that Muslim society was deeply divided among themselves. What were what the Muslim nation was on the 14th, 15th of August included all sorts of Muslims, Shias, Sunnis with their subsects. Even the now Qadiani group was then included among Muslims. There were Ahle Hadith. Then there were Bengalis, Pakhtuns, Punjabis, Urdu speaking who had migrated, and Baloch, and so many other nationalities. All these cultural, linguistic, sectarian differences were ignored, or they were just a lid was put on them. Once Pakistan came into being, the discussion which has been going on is, well, we got this state in the name of Islam and for Muslims. Now let's define what sort of a constitution Pakistan will have. So, 7th March 1949, the objectives resolution, I have gone into great detail. Dr. Chima, you must go through my Jinnah book because nobody has ever done this. I have the whole transcript of that discussion. Everything is with me. And I have quoted all the positions which were taken. There, of course, people keep on referring to one solitary speech which Jinnah Sahab made on the 11th of August 1947, where he said, in this great state of Pakistan, Hindus will cease to be Hindus and Muslims will cease to be Muslims, not in a religious sense, because that is a matter of private faith, but as citizens of the state. Now, that's the only statement which does not conform to the two nation theory and Sharia and the rest. But after that, Jinnah Sahab never backed it up with similar speeches. He went back to the Islamic connection, to the Sharia connection, and I've given all that evidence. So, the objective resolution is a very faithful way of presenting what Jinnah said to the Muslims. What he said to the Hindus is one thing, but what he said to the Muslims, this is what everybody is saying. Who uh, Liaquat Ali Khan, Prime Minister, is saying. Great academicians, Sir Dr. Ishtaq Hussain Qureshi says the same. Dr. Mahmood Hussain, Vice Chancellor, Karachi University. Dr. Umar Hayat, all these were academicians who were speaking, not ordinary people. Mia Iftikharuddin, the socialist, also spoke. Then you have uh, the former Attorney General of Pakistan. What was his name now? Uh, I keep forgetting. Then Sardar Abdul Rab Nishtar, Maulana Alama uh, uh, Usmani, Shabir Ahmed Usmani spoke, and even Sir Zafrullah spoke. And Sir Zafrullah quoted the Quranic verses and said, in Islam, in the Quran and Islam applies to all sectors of the state: constitution, foreign affairs, uh, individual relations. So, Maulana Usmani's statement and Sir Zafrullah's positions are almost identical, or although both of them didn't accept each other as Muslims. So that was the deception, that all Muslims are actually a homogeneous nation. It proved to be a big problem. Then you have the 1956 constitution saying sovereignty belongs to Allah. That was in the objective resolution. It became the preamble, and then it called Pakistan the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. The president had to be a Muslim. All laws had to be brought in conformity with Quran and Sunnah, and an Islamic institute was to advise them. Then you have the constitution of 1962 given by Field Marshal Ayub Khan, where for the first time, initially they took away Islamic, and they said the Republic of Pakistan. And I was then 62, I was 17, 18 years old. I remember all the demonstrations and shouting of the ulama and ordinary Pakistanis, that how can Pakistan be simply a republic? So the First Amendment brought back the Islamic uh, identity of Pakistan. All laws were to be brought in conformity with Quran and Sunnah. In the 1973 constitution, it went even further, saying that not only the president, but also the prime minister would be Muslims, and under oath they will have to commit that they believe in the finality of the prophethood of Prophet Muhammad, which meant that the Ahmadis were constitutionally disqualified. And in 74, finally, the National Assembly of Pakistan unanimously, nobody opposed it, declared the Ahmadis non-Muslims. So, and then you have the dictatorship of Ziaul Haq and his Islamization, and the blasphemy law and the hudud laws and the witness law that you need two women to give evidence in a court, uh, and then you have the rape laws. I mean, two women's witness is equal to one man. All this is baggage that was inherited from the two nation theory and became a big problem for Pakistan. So, constitutionally, legally speaking, Pakistan went more and more in a direction which is undemocratic, which is majoritarian, and which is oppressive of anyone who doesn't fit into that format. Politically, we know that the politicians made a mess after Qaid Azam was gone and Liaquat Ali was assassinated. It was a game of musical chairs. The bureaucrats appointed a, a prime minister one day, next day he was dismissed. Famously, Nehru said that you want me to talk to Pakistan? Tell me to whom should I speak? In the morning, you have one government. In the evening, you have another. So where should we start the dialogue? Then finally, the army takes over. I don't think the army from day one was aiming to take over the Pakistani state. Absolutely trash. People who say this are making an ideological statement. They want to blame the army and praise and absolve the politicians. I look at this as a failure of the political system which brought the army into politics. Once into politics, they also developed their own interests. And the result of all this is elections in 1970, breakup of Pakistan as a result of those elections. Can you believe it? The first free and fair general elections in Pakistan end up with the breakup of Pakistan because we were not willing to let the Bengalis form a government. Previously, we thought that the Hindus, being a majority, will oppress Muslims. Now that we wouldn't let our fellow Muslim Bengalis form the government. So that has been the Pakistani state's incapacity to deal with democracy, the rule of law, and now the the parody which is going on in Islamabad. Can you? I mean, all this fits into what happened in the last 75 years. Wasn't it in Pakistan that a governor of Punjab, Salman Taseer, was brutally killed by his own bodyguard? And then Pakistan's federal minister for religious affairs, a Christian, poor man, Shabazz Bhatti, was also gunned down. And then Nawaz Sharif's minister wanted to make some small change in the oath about the finality of the prophet, and he had to go into hiding to save his life. I mean, all this has happened uh, in front of us, you and I. You are much younger, but I've seen this mad theater go on and repeat all the time. So I'm not surprised. For me, this is deja vu. This has happened since the 1950s.
This is happening since 950. Obviously, this is a very unfortunate situation,
Hmm.
Dr. Saab, where we have reached, where even today, um, it is being said that we have a judicial coup in the country, we had
Exactly.
military coup.
Yes,
So the politicians are just trying to bring down each other by calling
exactly.
them that someone is an infidel, someone is a traitor, someone is calling them he's a Western stooge. But at the end of the day, the ultimate loser is obviously the people of Pakistan, who basically believe that we have reached to the point where the national intellect has brought us to this position. So it is the civil bureaucracy, the military bureaucracy, politicians, judiciary, the uh, overall larger society which has been running this country for the last 75 years has brought 225 million people to this point where we are at the edge, and any day the credit ratings which are coming out of Pakistan economy, that it can collapse. So unfortunately, we are not getting the good headlines globally. And you have explained that from the scratch, that what was an idea, what was the proposition for the Pakistan, and how over the period of time these have been misused, and the people couldn't actually understand what should have been the outlook of the country. The confusions remain. And even the Qaid Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, as you mentioned, he said that the Constant Assembly's job is to decide and to look into it. But unfortunately, these are very, very. So, one last quick comment, if you can make it, and that is about where you believe, where are we heading from here?
I think we have come to the edge, as you have rightly pointed out. So now the power elite of Pakistan has to make some very painful uh, decisions. And those decisions would be radically changing its position on relations with India. This confrontation has led us to this. We have had so many wars and so much overspending on defense and neglect of education and health. You talked about the human development indicators, and Pakistan is unbelievably, it was ahead of India, and then East Pakistan was part of Pakistan. Now India is number one, or Bangladesh is, and we are number three. So who can you blame after 47 for this, except those who ruled us? The common people of Pakistan, honestly, I tell you, are very innovative, very hardworking, but they've never had a proper, sincere leadership. This, as you rightly pointed out, look at what these politicians are doing. There is a word now like a, a, a judicial coup. I mean, this has happened in the past in the form of the doctrine of necessity. Things have, even the judiciary has been not performing its function in a faithful professional manner. I don't know
Yes.
whether it is right to say that. And the army, as you know, now has the final word on Pakistan. So what is the future of Pakistan? The future of Pakistan is, it is, despite everything, a major power. It is located in a geostrategic position which is enviable. I remember you were talking to, I think, Major Arya, and he said, God has blessed Pakistan with this geostrategic advantage. Make use of it. In the past, you have been making use of it only militarily, which is a narrow vision. I think make it the way forward for your economy. Open trade with India. You make zero commitment, you make 100% profit through uh, you know duties being imposed on the goods being moved. You can work for collaboration with India. You have to change your attitude towards your position in South Asia. The Arabs were patronizing you, they can't anymore. Okay,
True.
the
True.
Americans were doing it, they don't need Pakistan. And lately, I think China has also developed cold feet about Pakistan. I don't find them backing up Pakistan the way they did for a while. So, where does Pakistan go now? Except to its own people, act responsibly. And I think this can be done only by the Pakistan army taking some serious decision and calling new elections sooner than later, having a government in power which is accepted as fair and freely elected, and then let's see what happens. In the long run, we will have to become a secular state, if not formally, in actual practice. And I think the 56th constitution was more or less all right. It only said that the president would be a Muslim and all laws will be brought in conformity. Now, that's a very loose statement. You can keep on saying that we are trying. But if you keep on bringing, these dogmatic Islamic laws of the 7th century into the 21st century, you do no good to Islam, you do no good to Muslims, you do no good to Pakistan. You only make it a reactionary, backward looking, outmoded type of society and state. So the future is very bright if you make the right options. I think Pakistan still has a clout it can use because of its geostrategic position, and it's a nuclear power state. So the world has to take it seriously. But the change must come from within Pakistan. So
True, sir.
that's my way of looking at the best option. But if they don't listen to sincere advice, what can you do?
Obviously, sir, the best solution is the change is to come from within Pakistan. That's the only way. Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Ishtaq Ahmed Saab, for giving us a historical understanding of idea of Pakistan and then how we reached here at this point and what we need to do from here. Thank you very much for your time for my YouTube channel.
You're welcome. My pleasure. I enjoyed talking to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.